UFC 303 was a great success for us, and so was UFC Saudi Arabia. So was the card before that, and we're on a bit of a heater. My name is Angelo. That was my Borat impression, and I'm going to give you my bets for UFC Denver. Before we talk about the bets, let's talk about the latest addition to Premium. As you know, we have a Premium offering, and as you also know, we never touch the price point, and we continue to add features, functions, tools, and more. One of the latest additions is the Prop Hunter. This is a curated set of data that will help you find the prop bets that make the most sense. You're going to get all of the fighters, their average fight time by decisions, their average fight time in the UFC versus out of the UFC. You're going to get strikes landed, strikes absorbed. You're going to get data in decisions versus fights that didn't go to a decision. This is fully interactive, fully sortable, and it will absolutely help you find the prop bets that make sense for you. You can unlock this and the wildly successful safety parlay right now. It's only $10 for an entire month. That month is going to get you UFC Denver, UFC Vegas 94, UFC 304, and whatever the hell the card is after that. The safety parlay continues to be a resounding success, the beacon of stability. I'm going to admit, putting together a safety parlay for UFC Denver was not the easiest task, and I'm going to be biting my nails, as I always do. But we are in a 5-event stretch. It does hit at remarkable accuracy, as you can see here, and you can unlock the safety parlay right now at wewantpicks.com. Just click Become a Member. It is only $10 a month, and you're also going to get tools. We talked about the Prop Hunter, but we have a whole suite of other tools, one of which is the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every fighter on every card, and a million other things that I don't have time to talk about. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's talk about this actual card. I don't love it. I don't love it. First of all, we only had 8 fights on this card, basically 7, because Jasmine has a new opponent. So we basically had 7 fights on this card a week ago. And now we have 12. That means there are 5 new fights that were thrown on this card essentially at the last minute. This card is also at elevation, which makes things a little more complicated than they need to be. So I'm going to give you who I think are pretty solid favorites, who I think are very solid underdogs, and then we're going to jump into my actual bets. If I'm looking at favorites, dude, this is not a long list. This is not a long list. What am I going to put? Gabriel Bonfim on here? He should win. He's the more talented fighter, but that dude has what seems like 4.5 minutes of cardio, and then he completely folds. Can't have him as a confident favorite, even though he probably wins. So these are people that I'm very confident in winning. And if you watch this channel, and you watch me, you watch Jacob, you watch Artem, we are different human beings with different reads on fights. And I'm saying that because I think Rose Namajunas wins, and I think it's pretty straightforward. Jacob, on the other hand, is pretty confident in Tracy Cortez. So we're different people with different reads and different confidence levels on things. I personally think Rose Namajunas is going to stuff at least the later takedowns. She's going to be the far better striker, and I think Rose can run away with this fight. She was the one with the full fight camp. Tracy Cortez had most of a camp. She's supposed to fight next week, so she moved up a week, but she went from 3 rounds to 5 and at elevation. Luana Santos, I honestly... if I'm wrong here, then I'm wrong here, and it is what it is, and that's why we love this sport. But she was one of my most confident picks on this card. She's got great takedowns. Her opponent can't defend a takedown. Sometimes it is literally that simple, and that's what we're looking at here. And then Evan Elder. This fight was just added a few days ago. Brand new fight. Not a new opponent. No, a brand new fight. Both of these gentlemen, brand new to this card. It was added on Wednesday, just a few days ago. Evan Elder is the better fighter in this matchup. Darian Flowers is dangerous. Darius Flowers has great jiu-jitsu. Darius Flowers has power in his hands. I do imagine he'll fade a little bit. I do think the short notice is going to slow both of these gentlemen down. I think it's going to be a little bit sloppy, but Evan Elder's a dog, and I think he gets it done. If we're looking at solid underdogs, you can basically list everybody. Just everybody. And there's some people missing from this list because we've had line flips. We've had insane line movement here. Jasmine Jasudavicius was a huge favorite, then a tremendous underdog, and now she's back to slight favorite. She would have been on the underdog list if this was just a few days ago. Same logic with Jean Silva. But Andre Petroski, minus 105, he is the dog. I think he's the better fighter. I think he wins this fight. Obviously, there's some questions. The guy knocked himself unconscious a couple months ago out of nowhere. That's questionable. but he's got power in his hands. He's got very good wrestling. The two biggest question marks are A, his chin, but he's fighting Josh Frim, who's not really a knockout guy, and B, his cardio. He doesn't have great cardio at sea level, let alone elevation, but I do think he's a good dog, and I do think he wins. Charles Johnson's plus 210 right now. I have a bet on him, and it's not at plus 210. That line continues to widen. The reality is Joshua Van is a very good fighter, but Charles Johnson is a well-rounded guy with years of cardio and tons of experience. I think Charles Johnson can sneak out this win. I think it could be a 29-28 or a split decision win for Charles Johnson. I think he'll be the busier striker. I don't think power is going to matter outside of the first round for Joshua Van, and Charles Johnson has shown us, go look at that Azat Maxim fight, has shown us that he can come back from adversity. I think he can get that win. Drew Dober was the favorite, full-blown flipped. If Drew Dober was the favorite right now, then you'd see Jean Silva's name there. This is a very close fight in my opinion. Frankly, I was much higher on Jean Silva last week than I am now. Drew Dober is a big dude. Drew Dober has a great chin still. We watched him flatline, but he's still got a very good chin, and he's got his own power and should have cardio. Drew Dober's a solid underdog right now. And then Cody Brundage. That's a 50-50 fight. The fact that anybody is an actual favorite in that fight is crazy to me. People love to hate on Cody Brundage, but the reality is that dude has power in his hands. He's got very good wrestling, and he's insanely dangerous for a couple of minutes. Yeah, the fight fades. This is not a guy that's going to be grinding out decisions. He's not a guy that is going to be making the best decisions inside of a fight, but he is a guy that will come out there, have you on ice skates, do what he needs to do early, and could potentially get the win. It's a 50-50 fight. So I think Cody Brundage at plus 145, plus 157. If you go to bet openly, you are going to get better odds there because they're not a sports book. It's peer-to-peer. It's human-to-human. You could take some poor sap's money. Let's look at the actual bets. I don't have a ton going, but I don't normally have a ton going. The guys who watch this regularly, the ladies and gentlemen that pay attention, know that I don't throw out a ton of money, but my return is usually very solid. I am up far more than I am down, and the safety parlay continues to be wildly successful. This week, I have more underdog money, more plus money bets than I basically have ever had. Jean Silva plus 105. He's now the favorite, so I got ahead of that line movement. The reality is, I placed that bet a week ago. I would not place it right now, this minute, with Jean Silva as the favorite, but my logic was, A, I was coming off the success that was UFC 303. I watched Jean Silva in person live knock out Charles Jourdain, who had never been knocked out before. And I immediately was like, yeah, Drew Dober can be chinny. Jean Silva's the better striker. He's absolutely the better striker. This should be a striking match. Literally the same logic I had in the Charles Jourdain matchup. But it is up in weight. It's a very fast 2-week turnaround. Lots of questions there. Charles Johnson plus 170. I mentioned you can get him at plus 210 right now. You're going to get better odds this very minute. I think it's worth it. Or at least do the plus 3.5 spread. If you bet the spread, then this could be a close fight and you could be good. And I might double down here and bet the spread. I might add that bet. If you're a premium member, make sure you have alerts turned on so that when I do place that bet, you will get it. If you're not a premium member, it's freaking $10. What the hell are we doing here? Anybody who's been a premium member in the last couple of months, it's paid for itself 5 times over. I could go over on this card, and previous premium members have more than enough equity built up there. But regardless, I do think plus 3.5 is a safer bet than the money line, and this continues to widen. So that plus 3.5, you should get some decent value there. I don't know the odds off the top of my head. If you don't know what plus 3.5 is, you're buying points on the judges' scorecards. The way that math works out is, as long as Charles Johnson wins a single round on all the judges' scorecard, you're good. He could lose at 29-28 and you can get paid. He could win outright, obviously, and you can get paid. The only way you don't get paid is if he gets finished, which is not very likely, or if he gets just shut down, 30-27 across the board. Then we got Jasmine, Jasudavicius, most takedowns. That is juiced at minus 195. Frankly, I could put 2 units on that. That's just not my style. But I just don't see a world where Fatima is dictating the wrestling pace. Could Fatima submit Jasmine? Sure. Nasty jiu-jitsu? Sure. Is Fatima going to move forward and take down Jasmine more times than Jasmine takes down her? I don't see that happening. Jasmine Jasudavicius is an accomplished wrestler. She's somebody that has been wrestling for a very long time. She's somebody that has actual wrestling credentials long before her MMA career. She's not going to get taken down by an undersized, short notice Fatima at elevation. Then I did a little parlay with a couple of these round lines. Elevation's a bitch. Elevation is very, very tricky. So I could get smoked here, or this could be the easiest thing I've ever done. When you get fights at elevation, you get fights that go the distance that necessarily shouldn't, because people are too exhausted to wing those punches with power. They're too exhausted to squeak out that last takedown and work a submission. But the inverse of that is people are too exhausted to survive, and we find out who has some quit in them. I'm leaning the too exhausted to finish here. Elders and Flowers, brand new fight. They just added it a few days ago. I just think there's so much going on here. These guys are going to be lucky to make the weight, end up in the cage, be lucky to go at it. I think over 1.5 makes sense. I parlayed that with Petrosky and Freem. This one is that's the more concerning side, but both of those guys have seen decisions. Both of those guys have fought well into the second round. Freem's not a finisher. He's not a guy who finishes. Petrosky can finish. He also can finish himself, which we just saw. But I do think the over 1.5 on both of those is solid. I got plus 125 by smashing those together. And then we have the safety parlay. I am on a bit of a hot streak, 5 in a row. Pay-per-view, specifically absolute domination. You can unlock the safety parlay and any other bets that I'm going to place between filming this video and fight night. Right now, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. That'll also get you Jacob's bets. I'm going to give you a little bit of a teaser for Jacob. His underdog lock of the week is Jean Silva, and he got that line, and he got it nice. Plus 130 for Jean Silva. He opened at plus 140 or plus 150, so he didn't quite get it the very second it dropped, but if you are a premium member and you saw that bet come in and you agreed with it, don't ever bet things that don't ever look at a bet that I place or Jacob place, completely disagree with it, and then still do it, right? Don't do that. That's not wise. But if you think Jean Silva wins and you're a premium member and you hopped aboard, you got some very, very good value. Now he is the favorite, so it's not quite as exciting, but Jacob threw a full unit on that to get 2.5 back or 2.3 back. He has a whole bunch of bets in the works that will be placed likely after weigh-ins. He's waiting to see what these people look like, what short notice looks like for 5 of these fights. So 8 fighters, 9 people total are short notice step-ups. Let's see what the weigh-ins look like. Let's see how that goes. There will be more bets on the Jacob side of the house. So if you're a premium member, make sure you turn on your alerts. If you're not, WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Let's take a closer look at Bet Openly. I mentioned it earlier. Bet Openly, you're going to get the best odds. And that's because they're not a sports book. It's peer-to-peer. It's human-to-human. When you bet a sports book, right? When you put money in, you're betting on DraftKings or FanDuel or Bet Online. You're trying to beat them and they're trying to beat you. They want good enough odds to get you to come spend your money, but not so good that they get burned. That's why an even money fight, a 50-50 fight, is minus 110, minus 110. There's 10% juice on both sides of that, so they'll get paid no matter what. They don't care who wins. There's 10% margin built in. When you get to Bet Openly, it's peer-to-peer. It's human-to-human. They just take 1% processing fee. That's it. A 1% processing fee. They don't care who wins, who loses, because that's not how they make their money. They make their money on sheer volume. The more people that use it, the more money that they make. It's 1%, and that's why you're going to get better odds from them. They did just add UFC result props or finish props by decision, etc. So check those out as well. You can go to WeWantPicks.com/betopenly or just go to betopenly.com. And finally, don't forget, we will send you $50 to sign up with any of our sports book affiliates. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link, sign up, make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. UFC Denver's a weird card, guys. Don't overexpose yourself, and good luck.